You open an app and a coffee mug is $2, a phone case is $1.50. A full outfit, shipped from a factory on the other side of the planet, comes to $12 including delivery. Your brain does the math and it doesn't work. It costs more than that just to mail a birthday card across your own state. So here's the question this video actually answers. And it's not the one everyone asks. It's not, why is this so cheap? It's, if you owned this business, what would actually be happening on your side of the screen? Because somebody is paying the real cost of that $2 mug. It's just not you. And it's not really the company either. Not in the way you'd think. I ran the numbers on this one. There are 5 things that make a business like Temu work financially, plus one thing that just broke underneath the entire industry. Let's get into it. Reason 1 is the simplest, and it's genuinely legitimate. A normal product passes through 4 or 5 sets of hands before it reaches a store shelf. Factory, brand, importer, distributor, retailer. Every single one of those hands marks the price up to survive. By the time a $2 factory item reaches a shelf near you, it can easily be selling for 10 times that, and almost none of that markup went into making the product better. A business built like Temu deletes most of that chain. Sellers list directly from factories, often the same factories that already make private label goods for the brands you already shop at, and the platform ships straight to your door. No warehouse of unsold inventory sitting on a distributor's balance sheet for 6 months. No regional wholesaler taking a cut along the way. If you owned this business, this is the one part of the model that's just good, unglamorous supply chain design. It's the other 4 reasons where it gets interesting. Reason 2 is the one that just changed underneath the entire industry. So let's do this one properly. For decades, almost every country let small packages cross the border duty-free under a rule most people have never heard of, de minimis. In the US, anything under $800 came in with no import tax and minimal inspection, a rule written for the occasional small parcel from overseas, long before anyone imagined shipping a billion of them a year. Then, platforms like Temu figured out you could send exactly that, not one container, but a billion individual packages, each one small enough to qualify on its own. In 2024 alone, more than 1.3 billion packages entered the U.S. this way. That loophole is gone. The U.S. suspended it for Chinese shipments in May of 2025, then for every country that August. So I ran the numbers on what that actually costs, item by item. A $9 gadget that used to cross the border completely tax-free now faces a combined duty of roughly 35% once you stack the tariff tracks currently layered on top of each other. That's not a rounding error. That's over $3 of tax on a $9 item that paid $0 a year earlier. Temu's answer wasn't to eat that cost. It restructured. The company shifted its U.S. marketplace towards sellers who already hold inventory inside the country. So packages increasingly ship from a warehouse down the road, not a factory overseas, and never touch the tariff at all. The European Union is closing the same door in the middle of this year. Whoever's left holding inventory on the wrong side of a border when each rule flips is the one absorbing the difference. Reason 3. On a lot of items, this kind of business is genuinely losing money on purpose for years. That sounds insane until you see the actual numbers behind it. Temu's parent company spent close to $5 billion in a single quarter on sales and marketing alone, more than 30% of everything the whole company brought in over that same period. That's not an accident, and it's not incompetence. It's the price of buying a habit. Every time you open that app hunting for a deal, that's the return on an ad they paid for, sometimes at a loss on the very item that got you there, betting you'll come back next week for something that actually makes them money. They can afford that bet because of the size of the bank account behind it. The parent company has been sitting on somewhere around $60 billion in cash. That's not profit from selling you a $2 mug. That's a war chest, built specifically to be spent losing money faster than any competitor can afford to lose it back at them, until the competitors run out first. And that something funding the losses has a name, Pinduoduo, the same company's original platform back in China, profitable for years before Temu ever launched. Temu and Pinduoduo share a parent, PDD Holdings, and the honest version of this story is that Pinduoduo's profits are what fund Temu's global expansion, not the other way around. Look at Temu on its own, and you're likely looking at a business still losing money internationally, while the parent company as a whole still posts a healthy operating margin because the China-facing side of the business is carrying the international side on its back. The parent company alone is worth close to $200 billion on public markets right now, which tells you something. Investors aren't betting on today's margins, they're betting this strategy eventually flips the same way it already has in China. If you owned this business, that's the part that would actually keep you up at night. The strategy only works for as long as the profitable half keeps funding the unprofitable half. Reason 4 is the one that doesn't show up in any earnings report. What gets cut to hit that price in the first place? Materials that are exactly as durable as they need to be to survive one trip through customs, and not a day longer. Labor paid at rates that make the whole model possible in exactly the way you'd expect from a supply chain built entirely around minimizing cost. None of that appears on your receipt or in a quarterly filing. It shows up later in a charger that dies in a month, or it never shows up to you because someone else, somewhere in that chain, is quietly absorbing it instead. There's a returns angle hiding in the same place. When an item costs $4, processing an actual return often costs a seller more than the product is worth, so the math runs backward. It's frequently cheaper to refund you and let you keep the broken item than to pay for a box to cross an ocean twice. That's not generosity, that's just where the decimal point happens to land. So could you actually own a business like this? Technically, maybe, but you'd need something most people don't have, a genuinely profitable sister company on another continent willing to fund years of losses while you buy market share $2 at a time, plus a logistics team fast enough to restructure an entire country's worth of shipping the moment a government closes the loophole you were built on. This was never really a story about a cheap mug. It's a story about who can afford to lose money the longest, and who's quietly footing the bill while they do it. Overfees workers, a sister company's profit margin, or a government treasury that decided it had lost enough revenue to a rule that was never built to survive a billion packages a year. I ran these numbers because the price tag never tells you the whole story. If you want more breakdowns like this, subscribe.